Hello, good afternoon if you are in the UK, and good evening, good morning, wherever you might be watching from. Welcome to the South Asian Heritage Month Bangladesh Focus Day. Today's event is about talking about British Bangladeshis. I'm Numan Azmi, your host today. And today we have a number of British Bangladeshis joining me soon. And what we will be talking about is the challenges and opportunities for British Bangladeshis. Let me introduce you to our panelists. We have today with me is Mrs. Ferdous Rahman. She is a prominent community activist and one of the four leading women organizers of the movement in the UK to support the independence war effort in 1971 for the independence of Bangladesh. She was awarded the Independence Medal, known in Bangladesh Shadhinota Padok, by the government of Bangladesh in recognition of her effort to support the independence war. Mrs. Rahman is also an author and a public speaker. Mrs. Rahman will be joining us very soon. So when she joins, she will be speaking about the issue that we have today. Then we have Dr. Abdul Bari MBE DL. He's a renowned community leader, author, and educationist. He was Secretary General of Muslim Council of Britain for 2 terms, was a member of the London Olympics 2012 Organising Committee. He's a Deputy Lieutenant of Greater London County, a former Chairman of East London Mosque and London Muslim Centre and Muslim Aid Charity. He's also a parenting expert and has written books on parenting as well as on lots of other issues. Then we have Imam Ajmal Masroor. He's a prominent media personality, broadcaster, religious scholar, author, and politician. He's a regular media contributor on issues around Islam and Muslims and leads Friday prayers at different mosques in London. Based in Portsmouth, Lucky Haque is a patient safety partner for Solent NHS with adult mental health services. She also runs a voluntary group for the local diverse community called Chat Over Chai. Lucky is the project lead for the diabetes prevention group. And we also have final panelist Sharmeen Ahmed, born and bred in London. She's a British Bangladeshi who works for the Royal College of Physicians in London as a committee manager and part of the Equality, Diversity and Inclusivity Delivery Group and a Time to Change champion, raising awareness on mental health and well-being within the organization. Sharmeen has experience living and working in Dhaka in her career in a number of roles, including working for the Acid Survivors Foundation and Grameenphone. So that's our panel. Let's go to introduce our panels. So that's Dr. Abdul Bari, Sharmeen Ahmed, Lucky Haque, and Ajmal Masroor. As I mentioned, Mrs. Rahman would be joining us very soon. So, as I mentioned earlier, the topic today is the challenges and opportunities for British Bangladeshis. Now, some of you are born in this country, like Sharmeen. Some of you came as a baby, like Lucky. And Ajmal, were you born in the UK or did you come as a little boy?
I came as a baby too.
Right. So Ajmal also came as a baby. And Dr. Bari came here for, I think, about 40 years ago.
First, 1978 means 44 years ago.
44.
I was in Bangladesh Air Force. Then I went back, came for doing PhD in 1983.
Obviously,
as an adult.
That sounds as long as I've lived, Dr. Bari.
Well, I forgot to mention that Dr. Bari is a former officer of Bangladesh Air Force. So what I would like is, first of all, to ask those one of you who are technically raised in this country, What is your perspective? I throw it to either of you, either Sharmeen, Lucky, or Ajmal, in terms of what are the challenges and opportunities for Bangladeshis in Britain. 50 years of Bangladeshi independence, 51 this year, December. Uh, and Bangladeshis, we used to be Pakistanis, now became Bangladeshis. So there are people who's been there long before Bangladesh was born. What are the challenges? What are the opportunities for the Bangladeshi community in Britain today? Sharmeen?
Thank you. I think I do find that in terms of opportunities, I think a lot of us, we have really multifaceted identities, and there are many layers. For myself, as a Londoner, as a woman, as an Asian woman, as a British Bangladeshi, I think we're all facing a lot of challenges day to day. I think it's important to, at times, be very open with regards to the challenges that we face. Particularly, I have found in communicating with all different age groups, but particularly with the younger generation. For myself, that is something that I envisage to do in the future, where I think language is something that I'm finding that younger people I speak to, they're missing out because they can't speak Bengali. And it's something that they seem to feel that it's something they want to cherish in terms of legacy. It's really interesting, and it's, I think, a window of opportunity. But for myself, I must say I've faced many struggles and many challenges along the way. But because I'm an optimist, I've always been quite persistent in actually making sure I'm in the room, even during those difficult times where I am represented. I think that's something we should remember, that whatever happens, the representation for our community is very vital.
It's interesting you mentioned about the challenges of Bangladeshi community in terms of teaching the Bangla to the next generation. I know that both Lucky and Ajmal, you both speak very good Bangla. So can you touch upon how did you manage that growing up in this society?
Well, for me, we always learnt Bangla at home with my mom and dad. That's what we always had to speak, because my parents couldn't really speak much English. They always spoke to us in Sylheti Bengali. So I can talk in Shuddha Bangla as well, but that was only because we had a relative staying with us. And it was just through really spending time with him and talking to him, because there was no other option, because he was saying things to me and I was like, just couldn't understand what he was saying. And then I did, like, while I was practicing, I remember like talking to him in Sylheti, Hindi, English, but you know, now I actually speak quite good Bangla, you know, so that's really why my Bangla is good. And I used to work voluntarily at the local community Bangla school here, so I learned to read, and through school as well, we did do our GCSE Bangla.
So the bottom line is practice.
Yes, definitely. Practice.
Ajmal, what is your take?
My take is slightly controversial, and this is not deliberate, but this is how I have always found myself. I speak very good Bangla because I studied Bangla literature. I did A-level Bangla in this country, and most of my literature came from West Bengal. More specifically, most of my teachers were from Calcutta, so they insisted on us speaking very good Bangla. But that's not what I was going to say. I haven't taught my children Bangla deliberately, and you may turn around and say why? Because I think Bangla will play no useful role to them in this country, in their integration to this country, in their contribution to this country. And I don't see my children ever going to Bangladesh to wanting to make any difference in Bangladeshi life or society. I won't be going back to Bangladesh for sure. And therefore, I feel I'm more European than Bangladeshi. And that's what I asked you, Brother Numan, when you asked me if I could make a contribution to this program. And I said, what contribution can I make when I don't consider my role as significant when it comes to Bangladeshi activities and program? So Bangla as a language is definitely is a very rich language. It's got an amazing culture to it. I appreciate it. I celebrate it if I bump into a celebration somebody's organizing. I've never celebrated or organized anything myself. So, in all honesty, Bangla plays very little role in my life. I don't read it. I don't listen to it. I hardly speak unless I see my mother. And I live in a very multicultural environment in Enfield, where every culture exists here, and we speak in English. I can't see third, fourth generation Bangladeshi ethnic communities making any substantial benefit by learning or practicing Bangla in the UK.
Well, it's important to have this different perspective in the discussion, because obviously, those of us who made a life in the UK, it's unlikely for us to ever go and live in Bangladesh. So what we are trying to focus on is the challenges of Bangladeshis in Britain, not necessarily that we have to teach them Bangla language. Obviously, it's important. For instance, I know that having a wife who doesn't speak Bangla, that also has an impact. I remember my brothers were complaining to my father as to why my children is not speak fluent in English. My father, may Allah give him Jannah, he said to them, do you know what the language is called? It's called mother tongue. Why is it called mother tongue? Because children learn the language of their mother. Numan's wife doesn't speak Bangla because she's born and brought up in London and grew up in this country, doesn't have English as Bangla as her first language or second. So it's no wonder his children doesn't speak in Bangla. So similarly, maybe Ajmal, your having a European wife has an impact in your children not learning Bangla as well.
No, that's not necessarily true, because I've taught my children to speak other languages. For example, they are fluent in Spanish, they're fluent in Arabic, they're fluent in English, they're fluent
Wonderful.
in they speak other languages. I don't think it's that. It's a conscious choice. I am saying something very different. I'm saying, what contribution am I going to make with Bangla language in the UK? I'm saying very little. If anything, I should be making more contribution in the English literature, in the culture, and in the life of our country in the UK. And if I want to diversify my language skills to be able to contribute well, I should be able to contribute. I should teach my children languages that they think would open up their career prospect or potential in the world. However, I'm not suggesting Bangla isn't going to do that. I'm saying I, as a person, don't see any substantial contribution I can make with Bangla as a language in the UK. That's what I'm saying.
May I just come in, please?
Sure.
To that? Maybe I didn't make myself clear. The young people I've spoken to are from mixed race backgrounds, and it's a lot of my close friends and my parents' friends. So they have parents from two different backgrounds. A lot of them, one parent is European and the other one, their root is Bangladeshi. But they personally feel that they want to embrace that, and I completely respect what Ajmal is saying, because it's a personal, conscious effort. But I'm looking at it is in terms of a wider perspective. I was born in West London. I live in Harrow, very multicultural area. But what I'm finding with when I speak to generationally, we've got to look at the generational aspect in more of a generalized perspective, not a private personal viewpoint, which I think is quite important when it comes to the larger community, because I just think that why isn't it possible to actually be inclusive with everything, whether you speak 4 or 5 languages. It's quite interesting to know the language of your birth parents too, with regards to understanding the history as well. I see it as a positive, actually, and I'm only giving feedback from really young people who are doing their GCSEs or A-levels or at university, and even younger people. And it's just a very interesting perspective that I didn't actually envisage before until maybe in the last 6 months. So I just thought it was something to just bring into the topic of today, actually.
Hi, can I just welcome Mrs. Ferdous Rahman, who just joined us. Assalamu alaikum, Ferdous Appa.
Walaikum assalam.
Thank you for joining us.
No, it's all
Before I
right
come,
because I was.
before I come to you, sorry, before I come to you, can I just bring in Dr. Bari for his uh, views about the discussion that we have been having for the last 15 minutes?
Okay.
All right.
uh, I was born in Bangladesh, and whatever I read and learned in the early years of my life, that was in Bangla. So I have a love, affinity, and respect for Bangla language. Of course, I used to read all sorts of books from West Bengal writers, books of Persian literature written in Bengali, and I also wrote something in Bangla in in different magazines. But when I settled in London, I made it a choice that this is my home. So that's my nature. Probably I was born in north of Dhaka, district called Tangail, but I was educated in Chittagong. I made Chittagong my home. So that's probably my nature. So I have made London or Britain my home, and my first preference will go towards what Ajmal says. My children are born here. All of them are born here. They have been educated here. I have been writing in English. All my organizational activities, whether it's Olympic Board, whether it's London Mosque or Muslim Council of Britain, the language has been English. And I never worked for any Muslim organization in this country. I was a teacher after I finished my PhD and postdoc. And I became a specialist teacher in Tower Hamlets for 14 years. And I dealt with children with behavior difficulties. Tower Hamlets has been my community. I ran parenting courses in Bangla and English. So to me, Bangla and English are same. But my personal choice is wherever I will be or I am, I make that country my home, because at the end of the day, we have been accepted as citizens in this country, unlike many Muslim countries where people live for generations or at least decades. They are not even allowed to buy any house or buy any property or do any business. Say in the Middle East. So for after Second World War, Europe realized that some of their faults, and they have changed the system politically. They have liberal. Of course, things are changing drastically towards another direction. That's another discussion. But to me, as a Muslim, I believe that they belong to God,
What's
and
happening?
this country belongs to God. So there is no problem for me to be part and parcel of the society. So I work for civic engagement. I encourage. I'm somehow disappointed with many young Muslims and or Bangladeshi or old and generations. People want to remain in their own ethnic, religious, sectarian ghettos, parallel world. It doesn't work. So wherever we are, we have a stake, and we have our duties and responsibilities, and our rights. We simply should not ask for rights. We have responsibilities and obligation towards the society that we have been part of.
That's very nicely put, Dr. Bari, because at the end of the day, we always, I try to encourage my children that as a European citizen, as a British citizen, our prime and responsibility, it is God's decision where we live and where we make our home, not only our own. So we need to make sure that we integrate and make the most out of this society and give the best to this society. And therein lies the challenges in terms of as a Bangladeshi. And Dr. Bari touched upon it, that we tend to live in silos. We tend to engage only with our own community, and we don't interact with wider community, and therefore we kind of ghettoize ourselves. So, Mrs. Rahman, having lived in Britain for more than 50 years, and has been a community activist within the Bangladeshi community. What is your take about the challenges and opportunities for Bangladeshi community? We are talking about the language issue, about how important it is to teach our next generation Bangla, as well as make, like Ajmal did, which is very commendable, teaching them the wider languages to ensure that they make the most of the world. So, what is your take, Mrs. Rahman? Appa, can you hear us? Ah,
I think
I
she
don't
is
know what's
frozen.
going on.
I
Can
think
you
she is
hear us,
frozen.
Appa?
I think she's frozen.
Right. Can we come back to Lucky in terms of this whole issue outside the language, what are the challenges for Bangladeshi community in Britain? Do you think there are, in addition to the language issue?
I think, like Sharmeen mentioned, it's the identity, really, the dual identity that children face, but also the culture. Culture. I feel like we are losing a bit of Bangladeshi culture. The children aren't really the cultural heritage. We're not passing it down, or they don't seem to be that interested. But I think, if I was from my perspective, I would say that I am at fault here, really, because I haven't really maintained some of the traditions. That I have two generations of children, so with the older two, we had more stronger links with Bangladesh because their grandparents were there. They had to learn Bangla, but with the younger two, grandparents have moved on. They passed on. Sorry. And they've got older siblings that talk to them in English as well. So I think that's where I really haven't really kept up with the tradition, the cultural things with my children. And I'm, in Portsmouth, I'm seeing where we used to have the community language schools. They aren't there anymore. We used to have all the celebrations with the Bangla, New Year and things. They're not there anymore. So that's one of the, I think, the challenges that we're facing at the moment with the new generation.
You talked about cultural heritage. So, Sharmeen, can I just come back to you as to what do you understand about when Lucky talks about cultural heritage? What do you think that cultural heritage? What is Bangladeshi cultural heritage to you?
I think similar to Lucky. I mean, like I said, I was born here, and similar to Lucky, my parents spoke Bangla, and my father's from Sylhet. My mother is from Dhaka district, and I speak Shuddha, but I understand Sylheti because I was always around my chachas and fupus in London, and a lot of other family members speaking Bangla. But in terms of, because I travel a lot, I've worked and lived in Bangladesh, so I've been fortunate enough to in my 30s, I went and lived in Bangladesh because I wanted to know more about just keeping up the family ties and experience working for charities out there and everything. I mean, for me, the heritage has always been rooted from when I was born in the language, and because I was traveling frequently every couple of years over the holidays with my parents, which is not always financially viable. We're a small family. I'm an only child. So I always look at the bigger picture, and I have enough life experience to acknowledge that. But in terms of heritage, there's a Bangladeshi heritage, but there's also the British element in terms of the fact that, things about rights were mentioned. I mean, I'm a British woman. It's just that there are a lot of people who are British. We just look all different colors and shapes and sizes. And some of us are religious and some of us are not. Whether you're born here or not, you got a British passport, you have exactly the same rights as everybody else. And this is another thing that sometimes it's come up with conversations where I've tried to instill in other people who may have come to England in the last decade or 5 years, and they're still struggling with the fact that it's almost like they're still a guest. You're not a guest. You have rights. You're allowed to voice those. You have opinions. And I think when it comes to heritage, when you're somebody who has moved from one place to another, you embrace everything. That becomes a part of your identity. And a lot of people will recognize themselves as global ambassadors because things have shifted and changed so much. So, I appreciate what the other panelists have said, and it is a very personal opinion. I think that we're all giving because of our own backgrounds and experiences, but I think it's really important to understand what the present generation are thinking, especially the generation who've been born into social media. Because for instance, if you go onto Instagram, it's young people in their 20s, 15, 16-year-olds who are actually trying to grasp their background and heritage. Whether it's the clothes, like today I'm wearing traditional clothes. I love traditional clothes. I try to express myself, whether it's in official capacity or socializing. And if we look at other South Asian countries, like for India, instance, they're always embracing their heritage and culture and language. And I think that's great. I think it's important, and it shouldn't be overlooked. Even though we all have different opinions, I think it's something that is a challenge. And as I say, for me, day to day, I have many identities that I have to juggle as a woman. It's very different when you're an Asian woman than an Asian man. I'm sorry to say that, but it's a fact.
It's a reality.
I don't know Lucky and Ferdous, I don't know what their opinions are on this.
Ferdous, I was
Norman, I'm sorry to say I have a problem because I prefer on laptop than the mobile, and
all right.
and since I had problem many times as out of the studio then back in, so this is my problem, and I missed all the speaker's statement, but I can understand. So carry on.
Now, we would like to hear
Norman.
from you, Ferdous, about what is your view. We were talking about the challenges of the language issue for this future generations, the younger generations, how whether it is important to teach them Bangla or not. Like Ajmal said, he made a conscious decision not to teach his children Bangla because we live in England. Bangla is not important in our life. On the other hand, some people feel that it's important because it allows them to communicate with the relatives. So this is one issue about what your take on the importance of Bangla in our Bangladeshi community in Britain, and also maintaining our Bangladeshi cultural heritage. So please, we would like to hear your views on that, please.
Well, because we are born in Bangladesh, and our how can I think our civilization, culture, and heritage, whatever you say, is different from there. And then colonial practice, and then migration, and also um, uh, is a seeking for the opportunity to settle in different countries is many issue involved in it. But if you say language is always got a power, more language you learn and you have got a power, you are not helpless anywhere. But if you say Bangla, this is dead history now to me, because about 30 years ago, Mr. Bari will be the witness, because we tried and we had in our A level and O level Bangla, and we tried, and we are the pioneer to have the interpreter in the school, hospital, and all official things. We established that, and still is people are getting all the benefit. But language, yes, that if you come different countries, then your priority is that you want to be as fit as possible with the societies and the normal practices. Now, we were in a two culture. One is Bengali culture and one is British culture. And our children spend lots of time in school. And also there was again is invisible, how can I say, racism. And when CRE was there, the Council for Racial Equalities, I think all of you know, and that time it started to make as much possible as equal. But in our society, if you say, I think it's young, what's her name? Um, she mentioned, okay, is inequality, of course, because when I think myself, I think as a person, not as a woman, not as a man, because when you bring the issues man and woman, their set of rules, I think, is different. But as a human being, I think you are more freer to treat people equally. And then again, the languages we are talking about, language, okay, more language learn is that, but what is the situation? What happened in East London? Because East London was the platform that we tried, and now even in primary school they are not teaching Bengali. Okay, so can you? Because we fail completely, because our children can understand, can speak, but never use that much as English. So how can you, I don't know what panel is thinking to re-establish a Bangla language again in the school. Well, in the school, there are lots of other things that you can establish as a human being, equality, and the curriculum, all other things beside the language. So, and I would like to hear that culture, what is this? A human culture, there is no barrier. And the Islam, what Islam says, I think Ajmal, Masroor, and Mr. Bari can explain more clearly, and I think about the Islam and practices. And in Islam, I mean, if you say more you are honest and more you are equal to other person, you are the better one. And all the time, I think your practices and other thing, if it is straight, then you are a better person and better Muslim. So all other thing I think, because if you are a human being and mix with the other society, it doesn't matter, because God made all the community white and black. But our problem is that so long we cannot change our skin color, so there is always be inequality and injustice within the society, and even with the divide and rule, as you are experienced who are here in this country, on all or as a colonial thing. This is happening all the time. What I think myself, that we should know who I am and what is my criteria, what is my identity, and what I want to be, is a white or as a Bangladeshi individual woman, or so this is up to you, because in those days only we were fighting for heritage, culture, civilization, on what not practice Bengali at home and all the things, we did that. But what actually we need equal opportunity for all, because we migrated, we cannot compromise, because as a british person, we should get all the opportunity as a black, white, or brown, or whatever but the color. Unfortunately, that has not been established yet. But I must say, despite this disparity, I think young people, young Bangladeshis, example in East London, and you can see Indian example in Southall, and the Afro-Caribbean West Indies in Brixton, is happening, because when they frustrated that they couldn't get it, they make their own ghetto, and they feel at least they can express and the practice whatever they may be, but they have tried and still they are trying. And as a I cannot say a migrant, because it always happens. Still people ask me, which country are you from? I said, well, I was Bangladesh before you were born, and I'm here, and I think it is my country, and I'm contributing in my own way in the society and things like that. And if suppose people ask my children, the skin color is different than white, then ask, which country are you from? This is not the right question. And
Can
obviously
I
the
just
people get frustrated. So
can I just
many
ask?
things are there. All right, carry on.
Now, I was just going to ask Dr. Bari. I was just going to bring Dr. Bari in as someone who has been a, an expert on parenting. He has written several books on raising children in this country. On parenting, he actually runs a parenting consultancy. So, Dr. Bari, could I just ask you what is your view about the challenges of British Bangladeshi parents in raising children in a society where some of the parents might find themselves in a clash of culture, and some. And so, what is your take as a parenting expert, please?
I think so far we have discussed about language as the probably the main issue. To me, language is not the main issue. It's the identity that Sharmeen mentions.
Yes.
And the language and identity are not different, but identity, I wrote a book in 2005, it's behind me, and it is one of the reasons after 9/11s, Muslims generally were targeted, and still the war on terror is going on.
Yeah.
And many young British Muslims, Bangladeshi or Pakistani, uh, some were just saying that they are Muslims. Some say that that means British identity was absent in their public vocabulary, which has been wrong because we have multiple identities. So language is one of us. Language and ethnicity is just one. Religion another. It depends on how religious you are, but at least those who have got faith, they have got a faith identity. Nationality, and as Sharmeen and others mentioned, some are women, some are men, so these are gender identity. Of course, professionally, I have been a teacher, I am a physicist. These are my identities. So there are big identities which are
Yeah.
multiple. There are small identities that, depending on career, depending on, I can change my religion if I want. So faith identity is not inherent, but racial identity, linguistic identity, ethnic identity, they are they cannot be changed. So Professor Amartya Sen, who has been a Nobel laureate, he wrote a book on the identity and violence. And I wrote that my book before that book came. So when it came, I realized that more or less we are talking of the same thing. So if children are brought up, parents bring up their children with multiple identities, being confident in any of the identities they belong, then that will make children happier, more confident. And identity without confidence, and that's not going to work. On the other hand, confidence comes on the basis of competence. Our children should be educated to become whatever subject they go for, whatever profession they choose, they have to be best in their professions. Only then they will have competence in them, confidence in who they are, and they can brush off any of the criticism that come. Okay, are you Muslim first or are you a Bengali first? This question should not arise at all. I am Muslim when I am in the mosque. I am British when in the street. They are
Yeah.
totally complementary, independent. So these things
Yes.
are totally being missed by many of our country people or people in this country. Even in Bangladesh, identity is a big issue. Of course,
Yeah.
I was born and brought up around Muslims and Hindus. I had huge number of Hindu friends. We didn't feel any difference apart from the religious practice. Practice is something between one individual and God. But it is the, as our sister Ferdous mentioned, it is the behavior, is the way how we deal with people. That is most important. In fact, in Islam probably 95% of Islam is one's individual behavior. This thing is missed by many practicing Muslims, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But the Numan, I will not be able to stay for too long.
Now, I have a question for you, Ajmal. There is one of the viewer posted a question for you. So let me read it. He said that a, a friend refused to teach his children the reflection of their culture, their language or roots, and settled to make them British. 15 years later, when I met him again, he told me he regretted his decision. I spat in the air and it landed on my face, were his words. So what he said is, do you think your kids may feel they have missed out when they meet young Bangladeshis?
I think
That's a question to you from a viewer.
I think there's a fundamental problem in our question. I didn't suggest, when I opened up the conversation about my choice of not teaching my children Bangla, language is a problem. That was not my suggestion. I was just giving you my preference. Our biggest issue is, how do you identify yourselves? As earlier Dr. Bari and Sister Ferdous has mentioned, I've always identified myself as a confident Muslim all my life. Throughout my life, from very young age, Dr. Bari has known me since the age of 14. And it's the confident Muslim identity that has kept me very powerful. very grounded, and I've been able to make contribution to the UK and Europe to the best of my abilities. I have taught my children to be good, confident, productive Muslims. That's the only identity I'm interested in. I'm talking about my personal perspective. Now, Sharmeen has raised this issue several times, and that is, what are the young people saying out there in the social media, and what is relevant to them? I think you need to make a distinction between their cultural identities that they're trying to formulate while living in the UK, and perhaps the religious identity that I am proposing here. You can be Bangladeshi, you can be Pakistani, you can be Hindu, you can be Indian, you can be any ethnic background you choose to, or speak any language. What's amazing about being a Muslim is that it becomes your common identity. So the challenges that are faced by Bangladeshis in this country, in the UK, is that many Bangladeshis are failing to keep their children Muslim, especially when they come from a Muslim background, because neither do they understand Islam themselves, nor do their children understand Islam, neither do they understand the secular world in which they live. Some of their children understand, I get that. And in that confusion, they bring up children, neither being Bangladeshi nor being British, and also Islam is lost out in all of that. My suggestion has always been to all Bangladeshi Muslims, forget about anything for yourself. You're Muslim in Britain. That's it. You're a British Muslim. Just like hundreds and thousands, actually 3 million other British Muslims who live in this country. We have a united identity. We're British and we're Muslims. And if we can keep our children British and Muslim, then we've succeeded. If somebody chooses not to be a Muslim, I respect that. That's the choice they've made. Whatever you choose, be confident about your choice. I used to tell my father all the time, you cannot ride two boats, Dad. You cannot ride two boats. You can't have one leg in Bangladesh and one leg in London. Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon our Prophet, made an emphatic statement when he said, when a person came and said to the Prophet, who is an Arab? He said, whoever speaks Arabic language is an Arab. By making that statement, he destroyed three things: nationality, and inflexibility on identity, and the possibilities of embracing the other, rejection of the other. So what he's saying is, if you speak the Arabic language, you become Arab, just like me, like any other Arab. In other words, you become equal. That's the identity I hold. I've learned a language in the UK. I belong here. This is my home. But my faith identity is what drives me every day. But now, some of you may say, okay, faith identity, is he talking about religious identity? Again, misunderstanding about my faith. Prophet, peace be upon him, said, ad-din wal mu'amala. Religion is about your character, your interactions, your behavior. That's religion. It's not about your prayers. Prayer is a private business. If I can't behave well in the society, then I'm not a good Muslim. So I think we need to really decipher our identities in the sense of our cultural identities and our religious identities. If you choose to have cultural identity, good luck to you. I have chosen to have a religious identity called Muslim, and I'm very proud of it. And I've taught my children that, and I'm going to speak from the rooftop that I'm a British Muslim. I'm proud of it, and I want Muslims to feel same pride in their religion as I do. I am under no illusion. If you speak to my children, they're not missing out on anything. When they meet other Bangladeshis, when they meet other Pakistanis, when they meet other Europeans, they don't miss out anything. Do you know why they don't miss out anything? Because they're confident young Muslims.
Thank you. I think that's, the response to the person who asked the question sums it all up, where he says, thank you for your eloquence in answering my question. So that actually sums up your response. So thank you, Ajmal, for your very eloquent response to that. In terms of we have been talking about challenges, and we got another 20 minutes left. Can I ask our panel in terms of opportunities? What are the opportunities here for British Bangladeshis to make a better life for themselves, for our next generation? We are now third, fourth generation Bangladeshis in Britain. So what are the opportunities? I mean, I know that Dr. Bari, you mentioned about Bangladesh is facing racism, and because the majority of the Bangladeshis in this country are Muslim, there is an element of Islamophobia, and obviously discrimination affects everybody. So, do you want to touch upon that, Dr. Bari, and then touch upon some of the opportunities?
Well, these are big issues for any developed society. Every society has got its own issues. Even within our community, there is racism. Within the Muslim, there is racism, in the sense that someone joked, there's a joke in our family circles that someone, a Bangladeshi mom, learned that her son is having more or less an affair with a black girl. She nearly fainted. If it was a white girl, probably you would not do this. It's a joke. It's not a true story, but it could be true story for some. Uh, Color and etc. can be an issue for us, which we should not have, as Ajmal has rightly mentioned. This has issues in the 70s in the Altawazi's murder, or Shahid Altabali. And so when I came first in 1978, towards the end of 70s, it was the Labour's difficult periods, conservative was going to come, and racism in the form of National Front and everything went up. And I vividly remember from Lincolnshire, I came to London, and we were chased by a white car. I was going with one of my friends. But that physical, public, direct racism has gone down, more or less. It's not in the same level as it was at that time. After 9/11, definitely Islamophobia has gone up, and because there has been a war on terror, and this terror has been terror has been going on in Afghanistan, in all sorts of countries, and everybody knows that we discuss this, and there is a total disregard of human equality. And we know the prevent agenda in this country. I have been dealing with this, and Asmal probably would be quite aware of others as well. Through prevent agenda, a Muslim boy, a school boy, can do a certain thing and can be thrown into the issue of prevent. So these are realities, and things have moved. In the current global situation, far right extremism has definitely gone up. Politics in this country has turned to far right, more or less, and and any politician who wants to survive has to give some loyalty test to certain country and certain issues. So these are the issues that Bengali children who are growing up as citizens in this country should know. Parents should know, so that we can chart our way, we can navigate, so that we are not in trouble publicly for unnecessary comments. These are the part of my painting session, that while we have likes and dislikes for certain things, we have to express them in a civil manner, in the manner that the society understands, in the manner that through which we are not targeted as a community. I'm not saying that we should be coward and we should back off. Rather, my intention is we should be fully engaged in the wider society in civic activism, climate movement activism, anti-racist activism. Where are Bengalis and broader Muslims in all these big civil activism? Muslim number is very less. That means we are not politically that astute yet. We are not civic activism wise. We are not ahead. These are the issues that, as parents, we should discuss. And otherwise, what is going to happen? We will be treated, and we are being treated in this society at this moment, not as on a par with some other communities, and we will be treated as a pariah. And we know what is happening in India and what happened in Spain. I'm not saying that this can happen in this country. This may happen, but unless we stand on our own feet with our own multiple identities, with competent and confident identity, and work with the civil society on a par with the others, we'll always have problems. So opportunities are there, which we'll discuss, inshallah, but I think these are important. Okay, so is it question to me, given identity minority community, within the Muslim community, I think when Muslims, when they choose their marriage partners, can you imagine what can happen if a boy or girl wants to marry from certain other communities. This is one of the expressions. There could be other ways of treating everybody not equal in our faith. And you remember, even in during the time of Sahaba, one of the prominent Sahaba um, made a comment about Bilal radiallahu anhu, about some black mother. Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam was surprised, and he saw the face of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. It is Abu Dharr Ghifari, and he went to Bilal, sat near his feet with his head, that hit my head because I said so and so things to you. And then Bilal hugged him. So racism or dislike for certain community could be embedded in the culture of certain other communities. I'm not saying that Muslims in general, Muslims should not have any form of discrimination of anyone, but we have within us. I can give many other examples, or probably Ajmal probably will be able to give more examples.
I know that Ajmal, you have to leave. So before you go, can you just give us some light as to the opportunities that are here for British Bangladeshis in Britain?
Oh, thank you. And I think it's important for us to understand the context of Dr. Bari's joke that he was sharing. It is true that Bangladeshis have, in some cases, demonstrated racism towards other ethnic minority groups, and other ethnic minority groups have also demonstrated racism. So interracial racism exists within the minority groups, and we need to eradicate that as soon as possible. And we don't need to be sensitive about talking about it. So that's first. Opportunities in this country. Oh my God, where do I begin? Every single step I make, there is an opportunity for me to excel. From birth to death, I can't see anything that is stopping me from realizing my dreams. I don't take no as an answer to anything. Why should I? Like you said, I'm a citizen in this country. All the opportunities that are available, it's there for me to also make best utilization of. So, for example, education. The reason why I don't do well in my education is not because the education system has failed me. It's because I haven't taken the education system and taken it seriously or utilized it in my favor. I have found myself in worst kind of jobs available. It's probably because I haven't worked hard enough or pushed as many doors as possible to be able to find the right type of job. I say media discriminates me. It's probably because I don't stand in front of the media and challenge them and give the alternative narrative. I complain that political establishments prevent me from becoming parliamentarians, councillors. I don't buy that for a second. I stood for parliamentary election twice. Yes, I didn't win, but it didn't stop me from standing. You know, opportunities there, economic opportunities. You can be millionaires, multimillionaires. You can have charities, mosques. You can have organizations. You can have whatever you want in this country. Opportunities galore. And while you live in a country full of opportunities, you complain that there isn't enough opportunity. You're the most unfortunate person on the face of this earth. So Britain has given me ample opportunities to grow, to realize my dreams, and become the best that I can. Yes, there are barriers. Of course, there are barriers. But just like we faced barriers when we were younger, and we had to fight them and remove them. My English teacher told me that only white English people passed English GCSE exams. She said to me, I wouldn't pass English GCSE when I was 16. And I told her after I got the results, all three papers, English literature, English language, and English grammar, or English, spoken English, I got A for all three papers, A on each of them. She said, you are lucky. And I looked at her and I said to her, yes, I will not engage with you because your brain is so tiny. It's tinier than any racist I've ever met. And I walked off. Did that prevent me from realizing my dream? No. It made me even more powerful, wanting to excel in my abilities to explain and communicate in English language. So my bottom line is opportunities of every nature is available in this country. The biggest opportunity is freedom. I want to say, as Muslim, I'm so glad to be a British citizen because most Islamic value for me is freedom. The biggest Islamic value is freedom. This is the month of freedom. Month of Muharram is month of freedom. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ asked us to fast in this month to thank Allah for freeing the Jewish people from the tyranny of Pharaoh. It's called month of freedom. Allah created us free. In such a country where freedom is available, when Muslims complain that they don't have opportunities, I don't know what to say to them except say, oh, God, please help us. So there is no reason why you can't excel.
Thank you. Well, very eloquently put as usual, Ajmal. Thank you for your participation in here, and good luck for whatever you are up to.
Thank you.
Keep
Take
in
care.
touch.
Assalamu alaikum.
Can I bring a lucky Haque to have your views about the opportunities for? Obviously, Ajmal mentioned that opportunities galore. So, what is your views about the opportunities for the next generation Bangladeshis growing up in this society?
I think the opportunities, yes, they're there. I think the British Bangladeshis still need more opportunities. It's not that easy to access everything that Ajmal Bhai said. Things are, much difficult, I think, for British Bangladeshis or people from minority ethnic to access, high-ranking jobs, universities, and colleges. So I think we've got, in the UK, that we've got a fair way to go. We've only just scratched the surface, but we really have got a lot more work to do with getting opportunities for the younger generation in the UK.
Right. Mrs. Rahman, can I ask you
Yeah.
to give your opinion about opportunities for British Bangladeshis?
Listen, as it's an opportunity you have to create, an opportunity you have to identify. Nobody can come to you and give you the opportunity because in England you can challenge everything. All my life I'm a challenging person, and still now at my age I'm just challenging and getting things that what I want. And you have to have, because all the potential you have, and you have to have focus yourself, not negative way, positive way. And the parent, unfortunately, is first, I think teacher is your parent. The parent is not knowledgeable or or can focus. Unfortunately, but the system as such, the primary education, secondary education, and that they gear the children to focus and positively. There is lots of opportunity we cannot find, and we have to, because if a person not a scientifically mentality or grasp the sciences, if he's a art and other subject, let be in that prosper in that area, because and also all the organization, they are just uh, making the community dependent on them and services, because, and I understand, if the education is the power, more educated you get, more opportunities open up in front of you. Because if you are not educated, if you are not focused person, and if you are not aware what is getting on, then it's, you cannot blame. But lots of opportunity, you have to grasp it, and you have to go it and challenge it, because that's the thing. Then you can what you want. And our society other way, because what I am always, I'm telling my children, this is your country, and you have to be loyal to the country, and you have to involve in any aspect of the society and get into it, and get your opportunity back in power in your hand. And also we have to think that when I'm troubled, this is little example. When I'm troubled, I don't want to be known as a Muslim or as a Hindus or a Buddhist or anything, as a human being. I don't want to attract any trouble, you know. So I want to be human, but certain policy you have to take, and always a challenge, and always use think the opportunity for your children and guide them strongly. That's it. Because then their children will appreciate it at the end of it. Oh, because you just make me understood which way I should go, and I have got that and I achieved. This is our target should be. And
Thank you.
I must say that in East London, though their parent doesn't know anything, mashallah, I admire them. They're entrepreneur and they're becoming the scholar of this society, and they're giving the services to the community. I'm very pleased. But if we can't take the challenge, we cannot reach there. Simple as that.
Thank you. We are coming to towards the end. We only have a few minutes left. So can I just ask Dr. Bari to give your final thoughts, please?
I think this has been this has been a good discussion. Thanks, Numan, and thanks to other panelists. Issues are wide. Our challenges are evolving. Things are changing in our challenges. First generation challenge was to set up mosque or halal butcher or this and that. Now, one of the challenges is how to use the institutions that our forefathers or our generation have established, how to use them to the benefit of not only Bangladeshi community, but for the wider British society. That's one thing. Second thing is the challenges in the form of social life, lifestyle, and technological gadgets, etc., have also changed. Our parents should be aware so that they can guide their children. They cannot dictate, they cannot force. And our children grow as whole citizen, as better human being, as better Muslim, as Ajmal says, and also better citizens. So we have to have these three human beings. We are all human beings. Muslims, as Muslims, we have certain things, and also as citizens, there are things common. And opportunities, as I mentioned in one or two points, huge opportunity, as Ajmal has mentioned. Institutions, media institutions, educational institutions, and all sorts of institutions are still one of the highest and most successful in the world. Our challenge is to how we can make ourselves fit to be part of these and serve the wider society as well as our community. If we can serve our community, it will serve the wider society and vice versa. So I think uh, uh, we should be careful about our all the challenges that we face, but we should be optimist, but realistically optimist, inshallah.
Thank you, Dr. Bari. Before I conclude, can I just thank all our panelists, Lucky Haque, Ferdous Rahman, Dr. Abdul Bari, Ajmal, Masroor, and Sharmeen Ahmed. I thank you all for giving up your time on a wonderful sunny afternoon, an hour of your time with us. I thank all the viewers who has joined us. I can see from some of the comments that some of the viewers are from different parts of the world. So I thank you all from joining us. But finally, I would like to leave you with this thought, something that some of our panelists mentioned. In terms of our identity, we are Bangladeshi by heritage. I actually wrote a poem about it, about our tri-identity. As a Muslim, my first identity is I'm Muslim. My second identity is my nationality, I'm British, because this is the home that I made for myself. And Bangladeshi is my heritage. As long as I'm conscious about my identity, my faith identity as number one, my citizenship identity as number two, and my heritage identity as number three. This tri-identity is what the combined effort of understanding the impact of these three identities and making the most of these three identities is what I think that's what Dr. Bari was trying to say as well, is the three different identities: faith, nationality, which is citizenship, and heritage. We are proud Bangladeshi, but we are also British. That's why we are British Bangladeshi. But Britain is our home. We need to look at maximizing the potential for British Bangladeshi community and the wider British community as a whole. We cannot live in a silo and just focus on Bangladeshis and all the time. We need to look at British wider community. We are celebrating South Asian Heritage Month. So it is, I'm a Bangladeshi, then I'm a South Asian, then I'm British, I'm European, then I'm the citizen of the world. So we have a multiple layer of responsibility, multiple layer of duties. As long as we are aware of that, as long as we understand where we stand, like Ajmal mentioned, like Dr. Bari and all the other panelists has mentioned, and I think the Mrs. Rahman also mentioned it, Lucky and Sharmeen, everyone echoed more or less the same thing, that we need to be aware of our own cultural identity, we need to be aware of our own cultural heritage, and it's not one or the other, it's a blended identity. We call it dual heritage of South Asian and British, or Bangladeshi and British, but it's actually multiple layered heritage of identity. Let us all embrace the fact. I will end with what Ajmal said. We live in a country where anyone can be whatever they want to be,
Yeah.
and we can excel to achieve whatever we want to achieve. There are no barriers. Yes, there are Islamophobia issues, there are racism issues, there are discrimination issues, there are equality issues. Like every other parts of the world, everywhere these are issues. But I have to say, having been lived in this country for 32 years, I find Britain has the best opportunities from anywhere in the world in terms of maximizing your potential. We are proud Bangladeshis, proud British, and let us embrace that. Thank you to our panelists, thank you to our viewers, and happy South Asian Heritage Month to everybody else. Bangladesh Zindabad. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you. Assalamu
Thank
alaikum.
you very much.
So,
Assalamualaikum.
Dr. Bari, how are you now? I met
Yeah,
you long time ago.
yeah. I